Okay, so I have number 20. X squared plus x plus 6 is equal to 0. And I have to solve the equation in the complex number system. So they're basically saying, find out what x is equal to. And they're giving me a hint, and they're saying it's probably going to be a complex number. So I would look at this, and the first thing I would ask is there a way that I can factor that? I don't think I can factor that, right? I mean, there's no factors of 6, which when added together are going to give me 1, right? There's 3 and 2, but you know, if they're both positive, it's going to give me 5x, and if they're both negative, it's going to give me negative 5x, so that doesn't work, right? So I have to find out a different way to solve this, and I can use either the quadratic formula, or I can complete the square. Either one of those will always solve the quadratic equation, either the quadratic formula or completing the square. And for this kind of a problem, I'm not going to like completing the square. The quadratic formula to me is messy. You know, there's all these b's and negatives and pluses and minuses and radical signs and stuff. You know, but you know, sometimes you have no choice. But this one here looks like a really easy one to complete the square. So I would go x squared plus x plus blank is equal to negative 6. So I move my 6 over to this side here, and I set it up so that I'm going to end up completing the square. That's equal to negative 6 plus blank. Right? Follow me? There are too many steps at once. No? Okay. So to complete the square, my b is 1/2. My b is 1 divided by 2 squared. So I have to put in here 1/4. And if I put it over there, I have to put it over here 1/4. I have to add my 1/4 to both sides to complete the square. You with me? It's good? Okay. So I completed the square in order to be able to go x plus 1/2 squared on this side. And now on this side, I wasn't doing anything squared. All I did was add a 4th. So so what's that going to give me? Negative 6 is 24/4. So if I add 1, that would be negative 23/4. I like using irregular fractions. It's much better than don't start using your calculator and putting into decimals. Right? Exact form. It will say that on the test. Remember, everything in exact form, which means fractions, not decimals unless it says to. All right? Right. So so the whole purpose of putting it into to completing the square was so that I could take the square root. So I'm going to take the square root of this, and I'm going to take the square root of that. And when I do square root, I always have to remember to put in my plus or minus. So that's going to leave me with x plus 1/2 on this side. And on this side, it's going to be plus or minus, and I'm going to write this out, the square root of negative 23 over the square root of 4. Because, well, you can see why I'm doing that, because I want to change the square root of 4 to 2. Right? So I just figured I'd write it like that right now so I could see that very easily. Well, let's do a couple things here. First thing, I'm going to leave this at x plus 1/2 is equal to plus or minus. I'm going to take my square root of negative 1 out from underneath the radical sign. So I'm going to make this I radical 23. Are we okay with that? Any questions why I did that? You follow me here? Okay. All right. And that's going to be over, well, I had the square root of 4, so for purpose, I'm just going to make it over 2. And I'm solving for x. So now I'm going to subtract 1/2 from both sides. minus 1/2 from this side, and minus 1/2 from that side. So I will have x on this side is equal to negative 1/2 plus or minus I radical 23 over 2. Is that the answer? In the back of the page?